Hi everyone, Letty here, Party Planner Papery. I am sharing with you an As Many As Christmas Cards video where I use one 6x6 or 6.5 by 6.5 paper pad and make as many cards as I can. The paper pad I'm using is Peace and Joy by Kaiser Craft, and it is something that I recently hauled from Joann's online. What I liked about this pad was that it had these little punch outs at the end. And I really like all of the reds and greens in this paper pad. So it's a little different than some of the other pads I have. I figured I would give it a go. And again, it was like 60% off. So I think I paid around $4 for this whole paper pad. So I went ahead and got it, and in anticipation of making cards for the holiday season. So what I've done is I went ahead and pre-made all of my cards off camera, and I ended up using the entire paper pad. So I made a ton of 3x3s using scraps. So these were just some small little scraps that I had, and I went ahead and decorated the fronts of some 3x3 cards. And then I also made some miscellaneous cards. So I had a couple of A2 size cards, as well as some 5x7s. So those were using some of those little cutouts that had a kind of a scallop shape to them. So I just kind of cut around it, just to give a little detail to the card. Those were 5x7s. What I had planned on doing was, I figured we would assemble some of the regular A2 size cards on camera. I have already prepped them all off camera, but these were the ones, because there were 2 sheets of every design in the paper pad. I basically was able to make around 2 cards of every design. So basically I'm just going to walk through and show you I've already done one design off camera, and I'm going to just finish off the second one on camera with you. So this one was using some of those little circle reefs. I fussy cut them out, and then I stamped the Peace on Earth stamp right in the middle of the circles. It was the perfect size stamp for those inside of those little reefs. So I think it turned out pretty neat with the little sentiment right on the inside. So very straightforward, super easy. This next set of cards, what I did was I cut some regular A2 size card mats, and what I did was I cut them at a slight angle. And then what I did was I mixed and matched the patterns. So you can see here, I put 2 of the patterns together at an angle. And then I'm just adding a focal point right on the front of the card, which is, again, these reefs that I stamped with the sentiment on the inside. So here's just a few examples of what those turned out to look like. For this next set, I'm actually using some red cardstock, and then I'm anchoring it with some of the pattern paper on the side, and then with the big sentiment on the other side. Super basic, quick and easy, just how I like my cards. But overall, I think they look cute. And then, so this is the exact same style, only with different pattern paper and a different sentiment. So one of the really neat things about this paper pad was, again, I mentioned those punch outs at the back of the paper pad. So I thought it was a really good deal, because not every paper pad comes with punch outs. In fact, it's very rare. So the fact that this paper pad had the punch outs was kind of the coup de grace. It was kind of the icing on top of this paper pad. I thought the patterns were really pretty. And then these punch outs really do add a lot of detail to these cards. So here's another one. I'm using a red cardstock, and I'm using probably what was a scrap of paper, just to kind of add some focal point towards the bottom. And then I'm adding in that sentiment. And I did back almost all of the sentiments with cardstock or other pattern paper, just to kind of give it a little bit more dimension and depth. I really like these sets of cards. These are ones where I took an A2 size card mat, and then I added an additional card mat that was a little bit larger out of cardstock. And then I cut the smaller card mat into kind of off-sided or lopsided, almost like a window or like a present. And you can see where the left side is a little bit skinnier than the right side, and the bottom is a little skinnier than the top. So I really like the way these look. So I ended up making a couple of these. So again, I just used a little bit larger card mat out of cardstock, so that way it would add all those borders, like the window border. And then I went ahead and got a smaller card mat out of the pattern paper, and then cut them into this window shape. But again, it was kind of offside, almost to look like a side present or a side window, I guess. And then I just top it off with the sentiment right kind of in the in the bottom left-hand corner. And again, I really thought those turned out really cute, so I went ahead and made those. These are a little bit more generic. I used two layers of the card mats. I used the cardstock card mat on the back, and then I added a smaller card mat of this really cute gingerbread cookie pattern paper right on the inside front. And then I just added a little punch out sentiment that came with the collection at the very bottom. Super basic, super easy. This next one, I'm actually utilizing some of the tags from the back of the book, the punch outs. And you'll see where I'm just adding a card mat, adding a little strip of scrap paper, and then topping it off with a couple of these tags just to add as a little focal point. And I got lucky because some of the tags had sentiments on them, so I was able to split them up to where I would include one sentimented tag on each card and then one tag that didn't have a sentiment. Now this one was using some scrap strips that I used. What I found was that it's best if you lay the center scrap strip first, and then you can anchor all the other two around it. So that way it's a little bit more even, because sometimes if you try to start from either the top or the bottom, it may not show up even. Now on this next one, this is very similar, only I'm using a back mat plus the two strips. On this one, it really doesn't make a big difference because I don't have to even out the 3 strips. There's only 2 strips. So this one I do start off with the bottom strip first. Very basic. I was hoping to kind of show just a few different ways you can use your paper to make cards, a couple different layouts. I normally don't use card sketches. So this was just my way of kind of showing you a couple different renditions of different cards that you could make from a normal, 6x6 or 6.5 by 6.5 inch paper pad. This was one that had really pretty embossing on a white paper. And it had a lot of really pretty wording on it. It's really hard to see on camera, but I really liked it. So I went ahead and just used that as the main kind of area. I didn't really cover it up too much. I really like this tree paper. I don't know what's with trees this season, but I really like that dark tree paper. So I made it very, very simple and try not to cover too much of it up. This next card is one that was actually horizontal instead of vertical. And I'm actually using 3 of the punch outs, which was the tag, and then 2 smaller ones. And I'm just kind of anchoring them right in the middle of the card. Typically things look better in sets of 3. And I know you've probably heard this where things look better in odd numbers, but especially in groups of 3, they just tend to work. And so that's exactly what I did here, was I put 3 little punch outs together. These last 2 cards are ones where you've seen me do this before. I will cut the A2 size card mats down out of the pattern paper, and then I will cut at the 2-inch mark from the bottom, and that way it creates kind of a separated A2 mat, and then I mix and match them. But because this was a pattern paper with little birds, I wanted to really showcase those birds, and so I did end up flipping it a little bit and put the 2-inch piece at the top. But these are actually the last 2 cards. These went really quick, these cards. And then the 2 adhesives I used, I just showed you there. It was the Barely Art glue and then my regular ATG. So let's see how everything turned out. I did end up with 3 different card sizes. So 5x7s, a couple of random A2s there that didn't have a matching pair, and then a ton of A2s that did have matching pairs. Again, because each of the patterns came in a set of 2 in the paper pad. There were 2 of each pattern in this paper pad, which is pretty custom. This is normal what you would find in a small paper pad like this. And the way that I got so many of those little gingerbread was because I cut it down to right down the middle, and then I anchored out with that extra layer. So just a bunch of really cute cards. I really like the red in this paper pad. I really like the greens. I like how everything kind of meshes together. Everything's very bright. I really like the look of these classic colors. And then I also ended up with a ton of these little 3x3 cards. So I'm just kind of showcasing. Some I had to add my own sentiments, but then others I just used the sentiments that came in the paper pad, again, in the back of those punch outs. I ended up getting 74 cards total from this one paper pad. Again, this was the Peace and Joy paper pad by Kaiser Craft. I found it at Joann's online, and I had no scraps left. Thanks for visiting. I hope you liked this video. Hope you subscribe, like this video, and follow me on Instagram. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.